Hello and welcome back to another brand new video. In this video, it's another Tales from my backlog where I finally watched Mrs. Doubtfire for the first time. Enjoy the review. So yes, it has taken me until this year to finally watch Mrs. Doubtfire. It just was never on any stations when I was a kid, and watching a movie or even renting a movie was a privilege. Growing up, you know, but it just never got around to watching it. I've heard of it. I heard it was a great Robin Williams film, and I just didn't necessarily know the plot. Like I knew of the gag in How I Met Your Mother, where Barney does the Mrs. Densfire bit, and that's what I genuinely thought of it. I thought it was about a dad, sneaking in, like pretending to be a maid in the sorority to make sure his daughter isn't getting into any mischief. Boy, was I wrong. But yeah, what did I think of the movie? Well, I enjoyed it, surprisingly enough, because normally when it comes to movies like this, um, I watch it going in, everyone's saying it's a great movie, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to love it, and then by the end of the movie, I'm always disappointed because it was built up so much that it just didn't meet the expectations that people had set. For recent examples was last year, I watched two of the three Monty Python films, Life of Brian and The Holy Grail, and I didn't enjoy them as much. I definitely hated Life of Brian more than The Holy Grail. I definitely think Holy Grail is better. I've already talked about that enough. So, what is the plot of Mrs. Doubtfire? Well, essentially, um, it revolves around divorce, essentially, and a father's need to spend more time with his children. So, after the divorce proceedings, the father, played by Robin Williams, is essentially told that for 2 months his wife has sole custody and he gets 1 day's visitation a week, and that is Saturday. And you can see that he loves his children so much that that's just not good enough for him. And then so he goes to stay with his brother and his brother's partner for a bit. Then he gets his own apartment. He gets a new job because he's always in between jobs. We see him as a voice actor in the beginning of the movie, and then he walks out because there he's over moral reasons, and so it cuts. Then after a bit, it cuts to him with his kids in his new apartment. The apartment obviously is a mess, and his wife picks up his kids an hour early, and turns out she's also dropping them off an hour late, which is interfering, with his court mandated time with his kids. And so once he finds out that she's looking to hire a nanny to look after, pick up the kids from school, help them with homework, maybe make dinners, clean the house and that, he has the bright idea to do that so he can actually have more time with his kids, because he did originally throw out the idea of, oh, why don't I do that? Pick the kids up after school and do all that stuff. And his now ex-wife says no, essentially. Well, she doesn't say no outright. She says, I'll think about it. Which then, of course, with Robin Williams being a great voice actor, not only with actor, he puts on all these voices, ringing up his ex-wife after fiddling around with the ad in the newspaper to give a different number. And eventually he rings up and spawns Mrs. Doubtfire. And so he then goes back to his brother and gets him to do a makeover and turn him into a 60-year-old woman. and he gets the job. But also through this, he grows in himself as well. He learns to cook. He can clean better, which then transcends into cleaning his apartment more, and he's getting to spend a lot more time with his children, and as well as his ex-wife looks to Mrs. Doubtfire for advice on a lot of these things, and then the ex-wife starts seeing this new guy called Stu, who's played by Pierce Brosnan, and what I found funny is one point, um, Robin Williams' character does a James Bond impression, and then of course you have an actor who's played James Bond in this movie as well. So I thought that was a nice little nod, and some more hijinks ensues, and in the end, the court rules that he has to have. He's back to just a 1 day visitation after he gets found out, and it has to be supervised. And so then, as well, whilst he was working in this shipping company, shipping off films and that, he ends up talking to the owner of the studio, and they start a new program called Mrs. Doubtfire, and it's kind of the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like Mr. Rogers from like I didn't grow up watching Mr. Rogers, but from the clips that I've seen, it's the best way I can describe the Mrs. Doubtfire show in that. And then eventually, the kids, they miss Mrs. Doubtfire, but they also miss their father in a way because the father was Mrs. Doubtfire, and so the ex-wife then goes to the court and gets them to do a whole bunch of stuff so that way he can now look after his kids for a few hours after school and that's how the movie ends. And yeah, as I said, I genuinely enjoyed this movie. I honestly thought I wouldn't. And I was genuinely laughing a few times. And it was the first movie that I decided to watch in my new media room, which, if you missed that video last Friday, you can go check that out. I done a room tour. So you get to see what's in this room so far. Because there's still, as you can see, I have a poster. I have a Yu-Gi-Oh playmat. I have another Yu-Gi-Oh playmat that I'm thinking of hanging up and stuff. So yeah, that's been my review of Mrs. Doubtfire. Fantastic movie. Obviously, if you follow me on Instagram, whenever I watch a new movie, I'll always rate it on Letterboxd and share it on my Instagram story. So if you want to have a sneak peek of what might be reviewing for the next Tales of the Backlog, or even potential unscripted review, make sure to follow me on Instagram or on Letterboxd. The links to both are in the description below, as well as my TikTok, but I don't really post them there as much. I definitely do need to change that, but we will see. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on Wednesday for another brand new upload.